You're on point, yes. All the time, Kurt. You're on point, Ray. All the time, Kurt. You're on point, Will. All the time, Kurt. On point radio, we about to build. 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 Listen to On Point Radio Show every Saturday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. with co-hosts Curtis Sherrod, Will Jameer, Rayblen Vargas, and me, Yaz Hurston, as we empower and educate you, the listening audience, on current events, lifestyle matters, and political community issues with a twist of humor, intellect, and tough love.
So people, check us out at www.floempireradio.com. You can download the app or you can go right to the website and be sure to click on our radio show, On Point.
Love to hear from our people. Call us with your questions, comments. Share your thoughts. Call 929-227-4646. That is 929-227-4646.
Okay, we're listening to On Point Experience.
Hey!
What a great echo. So this is Yaz Hurston, everybody, and if you're just tuning in, On Point Experience Talk Show is a show that's live every week. You can find us on our website, www.onpointradioshow.com. Find us at live on our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And also, you can call us at 929-227-4646. We're pleased to announce the continuing collaboration of so many other partners that we have, not only on the show and externally from the show. You can find us on demand on Roku Station, the Hot Noise channel. That being said, roll call, please.
Buenos dias, everybody. It's Ray Ray in the house.
I don't know, but if y'all been listening to this music, it's a TC Beats production! TC Beats, y'all!
Did he steal the thunder? I don't know. In any event, and who are you?
Right, but thank you. Thank you for that.
To my listening public, this is Curtis Sherrod, a.k.a. Michael Check in the building.
You're not TC, right?
No,
Mexi, a.k.a. Mexi Ray.
Good morning, everybody. Jeff Broom in the building. Mayor Broomberg coming to you live on a Saturday morning.
And lady on the mic.
On the ones and twos, too. I am DJ Queen Dream. Thank you for tuning in to the On Point Experience.
So I gotta say that this is this track that we're playing is the intro. Is my son's production. As you know, I have two children, and so his production. He's trying to do his thing, and I'm supporting his effort. And so, good luck, good job. And maybe that'll make him listen to the show. Get up in the morning and listen to the show.
And shout him out your son's name, just so everybody knows.
Word.
His name is Chiyuka Cornelius, but this is a TC Beats production. He has not decided the name of this project yet.
He just texted me. He says, call Mom's Dream.
Call Mom's Dream? Okay,
Yeah, Mom's Dream.
That's fine. Thank you. So, it's all good.
Love it.
So I'm trying to share the show right now. If you feel free, go into On Point Experience page and you can share our show right now. And yeah, here I am. Sharing it. Thank you, Queen.
I got it going on,
Hey, yo, I
huh?
got it going on, huh?
What's the 411, huh?
What's the 411, huh?
I got it going
Hey, yo,
on.
I got it going on.
So, yes, the 411. So, let me start off again. there is somebody who just continually gets our wow. Right? Can everybody say wow?
Wow.
Wacko of the week.
Oh.
You know, listening to this. I
got it.
This you got it.
Oh, really? You never got it before?
Hey.
Wow.
Wow.
So good. Wow.
For me.
No, it's all good. 3 months. Wow. So.
It took me like a year to learn the number.
Right? You're making progress.
Your hair
So,
is-
wacko of the week, right? So, unfortunately, you know, a couple of months ago, Hurricane Maria, right, went through Puerto Rico. And wacko of the week, anybody know who we're talking about? Obviously, right? This, I'm sitting there watching the news, and this individual, wacko of the week, 45, had the audacity to say that we have done a fantastic job in Puerto Rico. Now, meanwhile, they promoted the White House that 64 people lost their lives. When the real number count came out, it was 2,975
Horrible.
individuals, just 50 times more than what was promoted. So the mindset was that the White House was trying to downplay it because they know they did not do the proper job. They were more concerned with people in Texas and Florida than what happened in Puerto Rico. So I just think that that's a travesty because they are citizens of the United States. But just going to show you how this political game is played. So that is definitely the wacko of the week statement by 45, and he just will be an honorary wow probably every single week. This gentleman is just unreal. So that is my what had happened was individual. So I'm going to pass it over to my man, Mike Checker, 1212. Mr. Sherrod, what happened this week, brother?
All right, I'm gonna put this out there for the radio OnPoint listening experience team. What y'all want to hear? Y'all want to hear a personal peeve? Do y'all want to hear international, or do you want to hear lady empowerment? Which one y'all want to hear?
I think it's personal.
You want a personal jammy?
That's my opinion. That's my opinion.
All right, personal. All right,
with that.
here's my personal jammy right here. So in Harlem, there's been a big controversy, in particular in Central Harlem, in regards to garbage cans. Yaz had so articulately indicated and spoke about it on, before on the show. It recently impacted me. I recently got a ticket for having a candy wrapper in front of my house. $115 ticket. Now, the same day they gave me the ticket, which was last Saturday, the New York Times reported how many garbage cans has been taken off the corner. They took every garbage can off my corner, and this woman or male had the audacity to give me a ticket on Harlem Week. It's Harlem Week. It's 1,000 moles in the area. Janet Jackson's in the hood.
Bobby Brown is down the block.
Bobby Brown is down the block in the big blow-up head and all this type stuff, and the foot tracking is there. That's right. A candy wrapper. She gave me a ticket. I told my wife, nah, dog is going down there. I got pictures. I'm going Jolinda Kogan crazy when I get down there. So that's my
What do you take pictures of?
I have a tree guard. I have a tree.
Yeah.
So there was a candy wrapper in the tree guard. So I just took a picture of it, and I have video cameras in front of my house. So I have the videotape showing, everything that occurred. Because as president of the Block Association, we do sweeps, which is not even our responsibility, just to maintain our particular block. And for you to not appreciate that, and then to use us as a source of income, as a profit center, to all of a sudden, after 20 years of living in that community, to start blitzkrieging us with tickets.
On a candy wrapper.
Can I add to your
add on that?
comment,
Yeah,
please?
go for it.
So I read the New York Times article, and big shout out to Jolinda for having a shout out in that. And the issue here is that the Department of Sanitation has decided that it is a courtesy for us to have garbage cans on our corner. Wow. It is a courtesy for us to have that. And so because people put their personal garbage in the cans, they decided to remove them. In order for you to get your garbage can back, you have to kind of petition it and raise noise. Fortunately, you live on the same block as people like C. Virginia Fields, former borough president, the council member, the assemblywoman lives around the corner.
Nah, she's front, and I live.
No, but I'm just saying you live in Strivers.
I'm in Edenwald.
I didn't say
projects.
the street. I didn't say the street. But you live in an area where people are influential, so they had to kind of put it back, like on 7th, right?
Yeah.
But like where I live, I'm extra angry because I live across the street where there should be a park. I live across the street from the park, so there should be a garbage can on the corner. And plus, there's just an extraordinarily, and I'm going to move it to my what had happened. There's extraordinarily amount of homeless people that has decided to congregate along, and I'm not bougie, I'm not NIMBY, But it's a lot of homeless people right now along Central Park, 110th Street. It's crazy. You can't even as soon as you stop, someone's at you asking for money. Wow. As soon as you get there, there's all the benches that we used to sit at now are covered with people's blankets. It's really a horrible homeless problem. I'm not saying it's because I don't want the homeless them to leave. I'm saying it's because de Blasio really has to do something about this homeless population. It's disgusting. And not only does that add to the quality of life, it adds to the garbage on my corner. Because now they're not putting shit in the garbage. They put it all on the floor and around the buildings. We wake up, we're like, what is this? And we're getting ticketed as well based upon people who don't have homes, personal refuge.
Yes.
That's unfortunate.
Well, I guess to piggyback off that, what had happened, just about no, because it's real. The homelessness is increased because they closed the Island Pavilion Psychiatric Center up in Inwood, and that's hundreds of beds. So in my immediate neighborhood, we don't have not just the homeless, but we have a whole new group of addicts. People who are not frozen,
mentally
standing,
disabled.
And not only that, but they're frozen in their drug. They're high in public daylight, 24 hours because they have no place to go. So, this is, where I live is super dense. We have garbage cans everywhere, and all the garbage cans we have is still not enough to collect all the garbage because I live in a super populated neighborhood. But now we have people on the streets, new people that I've never seen before. You know who the homeless people in your neighborhood are, but we have now 10 times more homeless people in our
these are people that we never seen.
Never.
You always know your local homeless person.
Right. And you kind of take care of them a little bit. You know.
But this is too much.
You know what's frustrating? It's I'm sitting here listening to what you guys are saying. We live in New York City, right? Nothing is cheap. And with all the money this city has, it's amazing.
$89 billion.
It's amazing what they spend money on, the shit that they spend money on. Meanwhile, we have people in this homeless situation like you're talking about. So I just think it's unfortunate. I got jury duty, Kurt, coming up. I hope I get your case, kid.
Well, plan of action. Plan of action. Instead of talking about it, we should really be doing something about it. And I really want to commend again Jolinda Ruth Kogan for speaking up and making sure that she spoke to the New York Times. We've been pushing it steadily. We even did right here on the show. We did a campaign on sanitation with 125th Street Business Improvement District. So we're on the target. We're on the mark. OnPoint Experience. But we need you, the listening audience, to participate and speak and make sure that your community is not being taken advantage of. Because trust me, every community is not getting this. And if they're doing it in your community, you should speak about it.
Crazy.
Well, I wanted to just. There is one thing on that is that they passed the zero waste bill, which means that every community now has.
Who?
The city did. The city did. The zero waste bill, which means that the burden of garbage should not just be related to the Bronx or East Harlem, which is a lot of the garbage. Every community board has to have responsibility about their own garbage collection and waste and disposal. Don't ship it all the way to the Bronx and have the Bronx deal with the whole entire city's garbage.
Wow.
So that is something that's one positive step, but it's not enough. We have to make sure that the homeless have places to stay because they are producing more garbage. Just because, And we just have to make sure that the city has their priorities straight. The money should be going to actually help actual New Yorkers that live in New York.
I understand. All right, well, thank you.
So did we cover everybody?
Well, I want to just do a big shout out to Andrew Gillum for winning the Democratic primary in Florida. Yes, he was third in place, and he just was the super underdog, beat out. But of course, as equally left as he is, he has a super racist, white nationalist, hate-mongering DeSantis who moderates a hate page on Facebook.
Saying he didn't know that he was a part of a racist page.
Please. Anyway.
I didn't know I was down with Wu-Tang.
Right. So, just big shout out to him. So Florida, do your thing. Come out again in November. And we all got to come out. Next Thursday, we have to come out as New Yorkers and vote in our own primary.
And Florida is right next to Georgia.
Exactly.
And if they come out in Georgia, Georgia might have the first
black
Stacey Abrams.
Yes, and she's so wonderful and articulate.
We also have Maryland's governor, Ben Jealous, former president of NAACP.
That blue wave.
So this is going to be awesome. It all starts from the South.
Right. blue righteous wave. There's blue wave, and then there's a blue righteous wave, and I
Okay.
think there's a blue righteous wave because Hillary is a blue wave, and it wasn't
Right,
quite
and
that
it
righteous.
wasn't that righteous.
Wasn't that righteous?
No, it was not.
We get him in office. We'll take any
Shout out
color
to
of the
Bill
way.
Clinton, who was righteous at the Aretha
Oh
Franklin
yeah, exactly.
funeral. He knew all the songs.
Oh, of course. I'm very sure
All
the
right,
trumpet.
sorry.
No, it's all good.
All right, what happened is done.
No, pay tribute to John McCain. Rest in
Oh
peace.
yes, my bad.
Indeed.
You know, and Aretha Franklin.
We have
big,
like 2
beautiful.
shows.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway,
But
All good.
John McCain is the truth.
yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we wrapped it up.
I think so. Thank you for that, Jeff.
Yeah, so it was a powerful week. You guys hit some good points and stuff. We went from the top to the bottom to the garbage to the top. It's all good. So right now we're gonna take a little musical interlude, and Queen's gonna take us away with some
With a break.
Yeah,
With
with
a
a break.
break.
Oh, I thought it was gonna be a TC joint, but we're gonna come back with that a little bit
No, we
later.
only got one of those.
No, I see
TC
two, I see
Productions.
two.
TC Productions.
And the close.
I don't think there are enough good times, so they do bad. A lot of people don't have food, and how much food waste we produce. Racist people, wildfires. Pick up trash on the ground. Be nice to people that work. We could use renewable energy sources. We made a peace treaty for the world. That would make the world a better place.
We live in the age of anxiety. The sage says, why are we giving all our energy to the emperor with no clothes? He's turning us all into foes, caught in the throes of the information age. Fake news and unpaid dues on a social media stage. Too many fingers on hair triggers, it's a pressure gauge. Guns won't save us when bullets are raging. Dreams taken and promises given. Years of education for wages at a minimum. Hashtag my misery, but those who can choose to stay removed, stay seated. Behind these screens, behind these memes. Filtered out truth, but I can still hear them screaming. The revolution is trying to go Facebook Live in the age of anxiety.
Like never before. You gotta love like this is
Trees used to open doors, now they divide us. Will we even speak these words if the person was standing beside us? Backspace of humanity, Instagram vanity, chaos in the comments, and we're losing our sanity. We stand at a crossroad where Babylon will fall. They don't need Mexico to separate us with this wall. Oh yeah, is glowing, tornadoes and hurricanes, fires devour, flood water swallows, thirsting for water, flimsy umbrellas, holding on, waiting for someone to tell us we will be saved. But what if we could part the sky and move the sun into revolution with the love we gave? I gotta keep reaching, keep fighting for a higher me. My hands are up, can't breathe this air in this age of anxiety.
You gotta love like never before. You gotta love like this is war.
Love is the answer, who cares what the question? Life is a classroom, love is a lesson, love is the reason, love is the proof, love is a weapon, love is the truth. Don't believe the lie, cause the love is the truth. Don't believe the lie, cause the love is the truth. Love is the truth, love is the truth. Love, 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 love. Why are we deep in this anxiety when our society could just choose to get free with love, 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 love. Love, 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 love.
Well, I gotta be on point. I got the on point experience. You know why? Because my name is Dr. Dre. I got the Yasmin on point experience. I got the Big Jeff on point experience. I got the Ray Ray on point experience. And of course, I'm with the man D Nasty with the on point experience, because that's the only way Dr. Dre rolls. On point experience.
And we're back. Are we back? Yes, we are. And you just heard the Get Free movement with Get Free. Shout outs to
ABG.
Amy G, Asia Rainey,
Burgundy
Brady
Williams.
Watts, and Burgundy.
Burgundy's the truth right there. Burgundy and maroon, what's the difference? We'll talk about that another show.
One has more brown.
Never could have made it without you. I would have lost it all.
So,
But now
there's many public health issues in our community. And suicide is a major public health problem and leading cause of death in the United States. And the effects of suicide go beyond the person who acts to take his or her life. It can have a lasting effect on family, friends, and community. We're here today joined by a survivor of suicide, Miss Keisha Lawrence. She's a native New Yorker, a married mother of 3 children, and she recently lost her son, Robbie, on March 3rd, 2018. Keisha, so extraordinary for you to be here. She is here to talk to us about suicide loss and the need to have peer groups, support groups, for specifically people of color. Please join us in welcoming to OnPoint Experience, Keisha Lawrence.
I never could have made it.
So Keisha, you when I was introduced to you, I want to say that I was very, very surprised of your energy, of how you talked about what was going on, and I would have never thought that you had your loss so early on, so shortly.
Yes.
So if you could kind of give us a little bit about your story and why you decided to come and talk to us so soon, that'd be helpful.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me here. I really, really appreciate this platform and for you being so open and willing. First things first, I have to say that I can do all things. We all can do all things through Christ, who strengthens us, and that has been one of the cornerstones. I'm so grateful and appreciative of the communities that have welcomed me. And there are so many resources in New York City that will encourage and support. I actually myself was on a watch after my son died because it was totally unexpected. He wasn't doing well as far as depression because he had lost his job in October. And we were helping, him look for work, like people in my network and so on and so forth. And I think it came to a point where I got concerned because he wasn't really wanting to leave the apartment. He was having social anxiety. He was only communicating with the immediate family and his girlfriend. He was still looking for work. He was on unemployment, but it got to a place where I was concerned and took him to Bellevue for an evaluation. But because he did not look, and that's one of the things that I want to emphasize, he did not present as someone who was mentally ill. I really personally believe at this point that my son had some undiagnosed mental illness besides depression. I don't know, I'm not a clinician, but I really believe that to be the case. So we took him to Bellevue 3 times, but he was that guy. He's tall, 6'4", he's a Howard alum, he is, has a strong network, he had a girlfriend, he's with his iPhone 8, he always kept his self put together. So I'm looking for him to deteriorate physically, right? For him to look and to smell like, he's not taking care of himself. When I took him to Bellevue with my mom, the gentleman that was doing admission said, well, who's here? Who are we here for? And this is at the psychiatric emergency room.
Why did you take him to Bellevue?
Because he was just not himself. He had left the apartment because he said he needed air. And he was gone all day. This is December 26th, I want to say. And it was like 5 degrees at that time, if you think about December 2017. And he kept calling because he was very, very courteous, communicatively. So he would never leave me without knowing where he was going. Mom, I'm going to get a haircut. Mom, I'm going wherever. And he was gone for several hours. When he came home, my mom brought him home because he went to her apartment. He had no coat on. And he had been out all day. He said he was looking for a church, and he's Buddhist. So I knew that there was something not right. And so we took him to Bellevue. he felt that that wasn't the place for him, so we did not have him admitted for the psychiatric evaluation. He never once said that he was feeling suicidal. He just said he needed to talk to someone. One of the things that concerned me was because he didn't present, even as a mom, I'm thinking, when I looked at the people that were behind the partition, they really looked like homeless people that really had mental conditions, and even the psychiatric nurse, because you have to go through several different people before you get to the evaluative process. She was like, who's the patient? That was the second time, because he was well spoken, he was still presenting, he had his Burberry scarf on. No, he did not look like those people, but mentally he was them. I didn't know that. He didn't know it, but I think that that's one of the lights that I want to shine on this issue, especially in our community, just because you're looking for a specific look or words. He never once said suicide, never once. I never asked, and that's one of the things that kills me, because he's my kid, right? So I never assumed that it would get to that point. I said, we're going to deconstruct every problem. We're going to figure out a way. We're going to get you health insurance, because he didn't have health insurance because he was on unemployment. But I didn't know. I didn't know.
How old was your son?
My son he was 28 when he went missing. He went missing in January. January 3rd was the last time I saw him. And his birthday was January 27th. And so I don't count, because I, as a mom, my gut told me that when my son didn't respond to me, he didn't answer the text, he didn't call, after a couple of hours, I knew he was not here. It was unlike him.
Right.
And so I knew that something was wrong, but in my gut, I knew that he was not here. And
in your gut, he was 28, right?
28. He was 28.
He was 28. In your gut, when did you notice a slight shift in personality or in his typical modus operandi? When did you notice, like, that's odd, he's acting a little different than the son that I raised?
When he asked to go to church.
That was the flag.
That was the flag. When he was not willing to meet with his friends, and when he said, I want to go to church, Ma, he was Buddhist for all intents and purposes. And he basically used to tease me because I do believe very strongly, and he would say God is like an imaginary friend. So we used to go back and forth, but when he asked to
jokes.
Right, I gave him a gratitude journal, and I'm so grateful for that because he didn't leave a note. But I do have what I'm going to share, some of his last thoughts. But I knew something was remiss when he went out with no coat, and we took him to the hospital. But even with that, he still was just basically Rob. He was down, he was low energy, but he wasn't ever talking off his mind or any classic symptoms that I would have thought, that indicates suicide. I don't know anybody that died from depression.
Sure.
So
when you now that you have decided to start this group, what made you get to that point? I mean, certainly I don't want you to talk about how you found, the means of the death, but how did you move into the direction of recovery, or at least being able to talk about it?
Okay, that's fair. So my son, I'm going to just backpedal a little bit. He went missing January 4th. So we had gone to Bellevue the 26th, the 27th, and January 2nd. He had seen a psychiatrist on the 2nd, and at each visit I asked, are you going to give him medication? And they said, no, we're going to, just wait to see what, they didn't even have a diagnosis for him yet. We're going to wait to see during the conversations where this leads and to see what his diagnosis is before we can prescribe anything. So the 2nd he was home, the 3rd I went to work, he kissed me goodnight. I had thought about family counseling. Because he didn't have health insurance, I figured, he doesn't feel comfortable in the clinical setting, let's go see a therapist. And we had an appointment for Friday, the 5th. So the 4th, I get up, I didn't have work because it was a snow day. I heard him in the morning before I got up taking the dog, because that's the kind of son he was. He took the dog out before he left. And in my mind, I'm thinking, why didn't I go look for him? But that's not what we did.
Right.
Right. So
I mean, you don't know that. You just,
he was an adult. So
Sure, yeah.
he went out, he didn't come back. So there was a whole search. I have to say those Howard friends that are family really stood up, and I can't say enough about those family members that were his family. They came together, they were on social media, they really lifted up our family, my immediate family, my friends. And so when he finally was pronounced or confirmed deceased was March. It was literally 3 months. And I really believe it was by prayer, because there were so many people that were praying for my son and for our family, and people that came out of the woodworks to help. So people at my job, I had folks there. I didn't tell everyone because, I didn't know how it was going to turn out, but they were so helpful. Like one colleague's husband was a detective, and she's like, you need to say XYZ, because they wouldn't initially take it as a missing persons. So that was a struggle. The whole way through was just by faith, because people just showed up where to fill in the gap. So March 3rd, he was confirmed deceased, and it was, as you can imagine, my whole life, the bottom dropped out. I was on watch. Like I said, I was on 3 medications. I couldn't leave the house. It was a disaster. And so my doctor, I had a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, and a psychologist that I was working with. And I've always been very athletic. Always. And so my medical doctor said, you need to get up, you need to get out. And I started with Pilates reformer. And then I started with the groups. But Samaritans also, thank God for Samaritans, thank God for NOPCAS, the National Association for people of color against suicide. Thank God for NAMI, N-A-M-I. They all have different resources. So I would read, in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, I would read books. I read about 11 or 12 books from the span of March until June, just trying to find a why, find an answer. So with that, it was baby steps, one step at a time. And I started with shout out to Joanne Harpel, who is the guru on coping with the aftermath of suicide with her group. And it's a small group, but so powerful. And I learned tools. I was working with parents who lost children to suicide. I was working with compassionate friends, Weight Watchers. They will fix you up, y'all. If you think Weight Watchers is only about weight, it's not. One of the things that the leader, Gail Zoller, God bless her, said was, when you're doing bad, you need the group. But when you're doing better, the group needs you. Which channeled in my thought, I swapped out group for community. So I know a lot of times in our community, because I found that when I was in these groups and they welcomed me, I was the only person of color sometimes. And I know there are other people that need this type of support. So I'm thinking, you know what? If the community helped me and they came together, then I want to be able to build a community that looks like us, where we bring a little bit to the table, and the group that I started is called Robbie's Mom Part Deux. It's a meetup site because I married walking and chatting. It's a walk and chat group for 1.5 hours, and you just show up. It's free. We have an Instagram as well, but basically I wanted folks to get moving, put one foot in front of the other, and then whatever comes out, we can talk, we can share resources, but that's where I am to right now.
So Keisha, I have a question for you.
Yes,
for
sir.
People in our listening audience. I know you said that physically you couldn't tell anything from your son because he was well groomed, looked good, he was fit, and I know you guys went to Bellevue. In his conversation, in his dialogue with you, could you sense, because sometimes we as men, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Like from anytime my mother asks me if there's something wrong, automatically I'm okay because my mother worries and I don't want her to worry.
Yep.
So is there anything in his dialogue outside of his physical that kind of gave you any indication? I know you talk about being Buddha and going to church, but anything that he actually said, or did he kind of cover it up?
He covered it up. I'm going to read only a few, not everything because it's personal, but I'm so grateful because although I'm not a clinician, I'm going to let Rob speak. And in my mind, I think that even he was conflicted about where he was going, because the very last entry, I'll just read it. I'm sorry. It says, this week, starting with church on Sunday, has been productive. Went to church to bring in the new year and get some general clarity. I almost lost myself had I not gone and spoken to my mom, grandma, and others. Luckily, I decided something had to change. I'm getting it together. I'm going to find a job. I know it. I started Black Privilege because he's a huge Charlemagne and Andrew Schultz fan. He loved the Brilliant Idiots. He had gone to several of their shows, and he loved that. He was following the blog. In any event, I started Black Privilege. Finally, it's been a good read so far. We have family counseling Friday. Me and my mom. I can finally express how I felt over the years as far as not being able to live up to the expectations, plus a few other things. I also have a workshop for interviews at the unemployment office. That should be helpful. Hopefully I can figure out why I'm not getting any hits on my resume. Nothing in that sounds suicidal to me.
No, it sounds hopeful.
So to piggyback on Jeff's comment, you had said earlier that there are some things that go on in your head that has to happen for suicidal moments to occur, and you said you could share that. What was that?
Absolutely. So during this journey, because I am Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It and, type A mom, I was doing all this reading, like what did I miss? What did I not empower him with? He was athletic, he went to prep school, he went to college, all this stuff, right? So Dr. Joyner, who is a lead voice in suicide and suicidology. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
It works.
He has this theory, and I'm just going to read directly because I don't want to botch it up. And I recommend that people actually check his work out because for me it was helpful. But it says, I think that there are two main processes that have to develop and that have to collide to end in this catastrophe that is suicidal behavior. One has to do with, I think, very basic insight that death is inherently fearsome and daunting. Therefore, it requires a kind of fearlessness specifically about physical pain, physical injury, and death in order to enact. So the other process, which has to do with why do people desire suicide in the first place? And I think it has to do with states of mind having to do with the idea, two ideas actually. One, that you're a burden, and one other, that's what I mean when I was referring to death being worth more than life kind of thoughts. The other is that you're hopelessly alienated, cut off and isolated from others. When these two processes combine, the desire for suicide spurred by alienation and burdensomeness, when all the things collide with learned fearlessness, that's when you see these catastrophes. So that's in his book.
Entwined. So you have to feel alienated and feel like you're a burden.
Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that the culture that we live in now is creating this state. This everyone is excellent at facades. You have reality show TV, you have social networking where everyone's always posting up these pictures where life is lovely. You see these music videos and everyone got the big house and they're blinged out or they're in relationships and you say, well, why am I not got 1,000 likes? What's my reality show? Where's my this? Where's my that? I think that as a culture, we've created an atmosphere that the result is situations, because even I myself in my immediate family, I lost 2 people to suicide. And so as a people, that wasn't something we typically did. So there's definitely something in the air that's been created as of the last decade and a half that is creating this sense of anxiety, this sense of loneliness, this sense of I'm a burden. Mm-hmm. And so
when you said that your meetup group is a walk and chat thing, I think that that's actually very beautiful.
Thank you.
In the sense that I could see that if one of my brothers committed suicide, I would because I have a lot of brothers. Okay. I would want to invite them to all go with me and like we all do this kind of group therapy. So it's not like in that clinical environment of sitting down and talking to strangers, because that's not our culture.
Right.
Like, we don't sit down in a room and talk about things. Like, we do things and talk about stuff.
Right.
You know, like, that's either we're cooking or we're cleaning or we're doing something.
Right.
But that's how in my family we talk about our stuff.
Right.
We don't sit down and do this go around. That's not, it makes no sense to us. And so when you said that, it really struck a chord in me about what a beautiful, simple way to help families cope with loss. So how often do you do these walks?
Well, I just started the meetup. So our very first walk is September 16th. And that is going to be on Roosevelt Island at the tram. It'll be every third Sunday for an hour. Afterwards, we can grab food if you want or not, but just coming together, because I'm not a clinician.
Right.
It's more of a peer, support group. And I just want people to come out and, just go to meetup.com and find the group and join us, or just join us. But I think that...
So how does that work when you're walking and you're talking? How does that support group, how do you see that coming? What is one to expect?
Well, I envision us, no pressure, nobody ever has to feel pressure to speak, but just being able to have resources available, being able to be amongst other survivors. There's something about being amongst suicide loss survivors that is different from what other communities, even working with compassionate friends, as wonderful as they are, and they do absolutely phenomenal work, they have a comprehensive approach as far as, if you have a loss as a parent, period, or a sibling. But working with groups like Parents Who Lost Children to Suicide is a specific group. And I think being in the company of folks, sometimes even silently walking, because we can do, silent walk. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going to come of it, but just being able to share the little that I've learned and have other people bring to the group. So I know a lot of times folks grieve differently and they think, oh, I don't need it. Like, I've spoken to not a lot, but some survivors. I was just in Houston and I met with a parent who also lost her daughter to suicide, and the same thing, high functioning, nobody really, they were surprised that this happened. And she didn't go to counseling, she didn't take medication, she didn't do any of that, but she did go to church and she busied herself and was of service. So I said to her, I said, well, you might have something that you might feel that you don't need the group, but the group needs you, the community needs you.
So I know you talked about the person who committed suicide and how we all envisioned that person, but how have you changed? How was your reaction, and how was your response, and how have you evolved now that you've gone through your process, or still going through it, and then talking with other folks?
Part 2 is the before Rob and the after Rob as a mom. I am a work in progress. I gained strength through reading the word. And there were 2 different thoughts that I hold on to. The first being that when I was pregnant with my baby, Rob, he's my first child, my only son, I couldn't see him, I couldn't touch him, I couldn't hear him, but I knew he was there. So this loss I've been working on, and I continue to work on stitching that into my being. I talk to him. I have my little tattoo. When I'm doing something hard, I said, Robbie, let's go, baby. I kiss him. The urn, I kiss my little tattoo, and I garner strength. I pray. I talk to my friends. I journal. But I think about the fact that I don't want, as a mom, to capsulize my son's entire 28 years of being into this horrific, life-altering tragedy and lead with, oh, hi, I'm Keisha, my son died, or hi, I'm Keisha, my son took his life. It's important to share that piece in different places, but I lead now as I'm getting stronger with, what, my son was in Japan, and he did this and he did that, or, when my son was competitively swimming, he did this and he did that, as opposed to eclipsing everything that he brought to me with this one piece.
Keisha, let me jump in on that, right?
Yes, sir.
Because obviously you're a mom.
Yes, sir.
And he had there were other children.
2 sisters.
Right. So Yaz asked how you deal with that. How does one deal from a family perspective? How do you handle the other, his sisters and your daughters with the loss of this as a family?
It's interesting you ask because I have three children. So Rob and 2 girls, Kaya and Sage. So Sage is the baby, and she and Rob mirror each other. I mean, they were best friends, clowning. I mean, he would entertain her because of the age difference. She's 17. So he was like the big teddy bear. She would video record him. They would have dance-offs. Meanwhile, when you're out, Rob is this button-down guy that you wouldn't believe he was so silly with Sage. She brought it out of him.
Right.
She won't talk about it. When she found out, she knew he was missing. When I had to break it to her, she didn't cry. She flinched, but she wouldn't leave his room. She slept in his bed. I took her to counseling. Once she went, she didn't like it. I took her to group once. She went and she didn't like it. So she says she can't handle the tears. She can't handle, other people talking about these things. So I continue to check in with her and ask if she needs. She can always come to me no matter how far out. She's a senior starting now in September, and she's thinking about Howard because of all the love we got from the Bison community. So there's Sage, so we check in. Whereas my middle girl is more outgoing, and she's middle child classic. What is it, middle child proper?
Is that Marsha? Brady Bunch?
Exactly.
So Kaya,
Jan.
Okay, so Kaya is that girl. So she's very outspoken about her feelings. She's very supportive of me, very protective of me. She is in counseling, but she suggested, because we are both readers, she's I guess more like me. So there's an awesome book that she recommended that she didn't read herself, because I checked in on her, it's by Devine. I think it's Meg Devine. I'm sorry if I get the author's name wrong, but it's called It's Okay to Not Be Okay. Phenomenal read. So she's going at it in baby steps, but she's dealing with it head on. But again, there's an age difference as well.
Yeah, Keisha.
Yes,
so when your son was missing, at which point did you find the book? Because I know in our family's particular situation, each time you found something, it was like a gem that gave you special strength. For in my situation, we found this box of mixtapes. He was a rapper. So it allowed us to really analyze what he was saying and go like, oh wow, he was going through stuff and so on and so forth. At what point did you find the book, and what kind of extra strength and understanding did it give you?
So my friends at work were laughing at me. They said, I know you were like the CIA in that room, like combing through everything when he didn't come home. And it's true, I went through every pants pocket, every drawer, the boxes, because it looked as though he just went to the store. Like he had turned, I could see his body print. Pulled the covers off. His laptop, which he was always with, was open on his bed. He was a junk food junkie. That was always our battle. So he had his M&Ms and his potato chips. And so I'm like, where's this guy? He always tells me where he's going, but maybe I missed it. And so when I found the journal after like the second day, I'm thinking maybe there's a clue inside. And it was just so like positive. And I guess because it was the gratitude journal, he only documented the positive stuff. But this really has fortified me in a way that I can't even convey, because it's like a gift he gave me.
Yeah, right.
It's a gift.
Right.
So, did you feel like it was your fault at some point?
Of course.
What is that like as a mother?
I still grapple with that. I mean, I think all mothers, well, I can't speak for all mothers, but I think that's one of the key components of this unknotting of what went on. It was the fact that, what did I miss? How did I miss this? Like, he lived with me. I took him to the doctor. I have all his text messages. We traveled together. The picture I actually submitted to you, we were on our way to Malaysia. We did like the mommy and me trips, and I was always there. So of course, I mean, I took full responsibility, but until I recognized that it's an illness.
Right.
It was a mental illness that was undiagnosed. The one thing that I do struggle with still is seeing him in a light where he felt that he couldn't get off of this box that he was on. Like you were saying earlier, that you have to be perfect, and you have to be well spoken, you have to be well dressed, and you have the right friends and girlfriend. And I think that ultimately became too heavy for him because he couldn't let down whatever his burdens were. And I say a portion of that I struggle with, because even myself, I'm like, we're gonna get this done. You're my son, I would never trade you for anything. But whatever it is, we're gonna fix it. And I couldn't fix this.
So Keisha Lawrence, thank you so much.
Wow. Thank you.
For coming on Point Experience. The meetup starts on September 16th.
Yep.
And Roosevelt Island. Yep. And at what time?
At 2:00, from 2 to 3:30. And it's again Robbie's Mom Part Deux meetup, and also we're on Instagram, so you can find us and follow us there.
So your message is very important for those who are struggling and wanting to find someone who can talk to. They can talk to about loss, but also to parents who don't know what to look for in this process, because everyone always thinks that their child is their guy, that guy, as you said. Keisha, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me. I really appreciate it. And we can do all things through Christ.
Absolutely.
All things. Thank you.
Thank you.
On Point Experience, everybody. Great show. We'll see you all next time.